Welcome back, coaches. This is the Football Coaching Podcast. I am Daniel Chamberlain, here with Joe Daniel, as always.
What's up, Coach?
You know, it's just the week after spring break, and I'm not sure I was ready to go back to school.
Right.
Spring break needs to be about doubled in size.
So you're the week after spring break already.
Yes.
Our spring break is next week.
Yeah. It's weird how it's staggered in places.
Ours is always based around Easter. I don't know if it's always. I think it's either the first or Easter's going to always be either the first or the last weekend. I think they have Good Friday off going into it. So I think that's kind of
the first day of spring break, kind of.
Yeah, I think that was one of the. We had no snow days. So they get Good Friday and then going into Easter and whatever. So yeah, different times.
For sure. Well, what have you done to be a better coach this week, Joe?
I don't know that I've, I thought about like, what have I done? And I always look at, I think the best thing that this week was our Chalk Talk Q&A call. We were really good, won a lot of good questions. Obviously, almost a lot of questions we've answered before, but some questions we haven't talked as much about. So I enjoy getting on there and getting we get a lot of the questions ahead of time, but I only I have a chance to just kind of glance over them before we get on there and then kind of figure it out. And try to come up with some ideas. We had some other coaches that participate as well with their ideas, and so I always enjoy that. So yeah, I mean, just that the fastest way. The fastest way to get really good at coaching. Well, is to be around and talk coaching and talk football. And I mean, obviously the slowest way, but the most sure way is experience. You just want to kind of accelerate that. Being able to talk about one scheme is a huge help. If you just get with a bunch of random people, you'll get some good ideas and you'll get some good things. But being around a bunch of like-minded coaches who are also going out and getting ideas elsewhere, but the core of everything that they're doing is umbrella run fits, JDFB, the stuff we do at JDFB, Coach Simple, all those kinds of things, I think accelerates it. Isn't it? Everybody's got their own experiences doing kind of the same thing. Everybody's got their own ideas coming from elsewhere, but ultimately we're all on the same page and just trying to like kind of sharpen each other. And I get to answer a lot of questions that way. So it's a really good level up for me.
Awesome. I'll tell you what I did. I went ahead and just bought my own Quick Cuts account because not that I have any film to put there yet, but I will. But I had gotten to that point where it's like, once again, I'm between teams and I've made up all this playbook for the 5th time. And it's like, I've got to get out of this. I got to get out of this habit or this loop. And so Quick Cuts it is. I love their storage is so cheap. Price wise, they're the best in the business. Their playbook's a little finicky. I still like Huddle's playbook, but I can get used to it. But I also took my playbook and put it in Canva and drew everything up there and put it in like basically a PowerPoint presentation, but Canva where you can edit more stuff and make it look neat. And then I used Loom, which of course I got because you use it with the game film analysis, and I've used it to talk to my players and even help other coaches. And so I just walked through my whole playbook, and so that's my coaching teach tape now. And right, because I'm still not quite official yet, but joining a new staff to be the OC, and so the staff needs to know the offense, and now I can share it to them in Loom videos, and so it's made it really, really neat. And so going through even teaching it, I found places where I was like, maybe I'm not so sure about that. Maybe that doesn't sound right? Or I'd drawn it up wrong, or some things I was like, nope, that still really works. We're going to stick with it. So really neat just to walk through your own system sometimes. Just kind of go back through the playbook, talk about the basics as if it was a first day install, not just for your freshmen, where you've probably given it to a freshman coach to do anyway, but what if you had to install it at every level, seniors and down, everyone, all the coaches have to understand this new offense. And so I think it's going to be a big help to me and the rest of the guys. So that's kind of what I've done to level up my coaching this week.
It's a really good idea. It's one of the things that, I think we will eventually have more. We have very simplified, drawn up playbooks, but I've thought over and over about like, hey, why don't I just have a drawn up play? Why do you have to really watch, all of this stuff to get it? Could I just draw up a playbook? And I know I've done this, and I've seen a lot of coaches do this, where you hand them the playbook, and if you find them on the first day of practice, they're looking at the playbook off to the side as they're trying to coach it, because they didn't really learn it because they had it printed off for them. And I think that video is a big benefit in that realm. You need to watch the video. I like things like Loom because I can see if you watch the video. Like, I want to know, hey, if my wide receiver coach has never opened that, like, I mean, you're going to do in person. You're going to, I assume, have in person, although the time is getting shorter. We would have liked to do that in February and March. The time is getting shorter, especially having assistants probably coaching other sports. You're not going to get as much time with them. But we're going to have in person. And I think that's where most of the install with coaches should happen. But they should be able to put in work outside of us sitting in a room together, and they should want to do that. And because unlike the kids, I'm very big on the kids should really, outside of I want, I like to create a short playlist after practice or after a game and say, here's 10 clips to watch, short. But I think the majority of our teaching to kids should be on the field. They've got enough going on to expect them to go home and study a playbook or something like that. But coaches, they've got to master it. Like, they've got to be able to stand up in front of 8 linebackers and sound like they know the defense, like they drew it up, even if somebody else handed it to them last week. So I think it's a great thing to do. And you're right. You do, one of the funny things is I do so much with the 4-2-5. I will occasionally catch something the way that I've modified the 4-3 a little bit. And with the 3-4, I'll occasionally catch things. Not so much with the 3-3. 3-3 is so direct from the 4-2. But I spend so much time on the 4-2-5 because over 80% of our clients are running the 4-2-5, at least as a change up front, that I will occasionally run into something with the 3-4 or the 4-3 that I'm like, as I'm answering a question or as I'm recording a video, I'm like, that doesn't, I gotta change the wording on that or change the something about that when I just thought about it in my head was like, yeah, this will work. This will be fine. Right. And then as I go to answer the question, I'm like, I gotta modify that a little bit.
Yeah. It's nice to just kind of go back over what you think is a solid piece and just troubleshoot it, because somebody else is going to find it anyway. So
yeah, and you'll be doing it forever. It's just like Lever's principle. It's just same idea. You're going to be doing the same thing forever, even if you run JDFB 4-2-5 defense, even if you run Kenny's offense, even if you're one of the things you'll find, because I've been doing this so long, Kenny's been doing this so long with our own systems, is you'll find, and I get coaches who do this all the time, will be like, I'm running your 4-2-5 defense to the T, everything you said. And 3 years down the road, I'm like, well, what about this? And they're like, oh, I missed that part. Because it's impossible to get it all.
Yeah.
There's even times where stuff pops up for me and I'm like, I remember that.
Yep.
Kind of got away from that.
And it doesn't matter who you are, what you're trying to do, you're going to put your own spin on things. You're going to find, like, doesn't matter if it's terminology or if it's, what we're talking about tonight. The topic tonight, we're going to talk about some tight end nub formations and some condensed edges and how we're going to defend those. But you can take everything we say tonight and draw it up and be like, nope, I don't like it. And then you're going to find another way that you want to do it. This last year, we'll get into it. It's just, you're never going to run something exact, no matter how hard you try, because you don't have the same kids. You don't know the flow that they call the offense or defense. How are their problem solved? There's too much to it, right? So
it's very easy. I mean, the simplest example for me is, I in weightlifting, with the snatch, I have a 7-foot ceiling in my basement. I can't do jerks. I can't do anything overhead in my basement. So my jerks are always fine. I only do them in the gym, but I can snatch and just not stand the weight up. I can just catch it in the bottom and drop it. And so I go for the periods of time where I'm doing all of my snatch work in the basement without my coach there. I've been competing for 8 years this time, and I also was doing it. I wasn't competing, but I was trained when I was a teenager as well. And I'll go for 4 or 5 weeks without really being coached on it. And for 7 or 8 or however many years it is, Chris has been telling me, get hips up, hips up, hips up, hips up, hips up, because I have a tendency to drop my hips. I will start to drop my hips, even though I've been told that a million times. And I'll be like, oh, I found something that feels comfortable, because it feels comfortable. And as soon as I go in, it's like, hey, get your hips up. Oh, Jesus. And it's so easy without that's like game film analysis. It's so easy to just miss little things because so you send your game film in, and somebody, myself, or we have Con working on it, Bill working on it, somebody who's the thing we say is, it's hard to see the picture when you're in the frame.
Yeah,
it's impossible. You need it. You have to get out there, and then you have to pull levers, and sometimes you have to pull the same lever again 6 weeks later.
Yeah. Yep. Well, Joe, before we get started talking, you want to pay the bills here, sir?
Yeah, we've got 40 Coach Simple rules for football coaches who want to win more games. It is a free PDF document. It is 40 tips, tricks, strategies that you can use to win more football games in a very nicely designed, downloadable PDF, instant access. All it's going to cost you is your email. It is free, except for your email address. And you just go to joedanielfootball.com/rules, RULES. Or you can just go to the homepage of joedanielfootball.com and you'll find it there. Download those 40 Coach Simple rules for football coaches who want to win more games. You'll find something in there that's going to win you a game.
Awesome. All right, so let's jump into question 1 here. What exactly are we talking about when we say tight end nub or condensed edge formation?
Well, I mean, we're talking nub tight end. We're talking just a tight end with no body, no receiver. So no split receiver. So the backside of a traditional twins formation, what we use, I twins, 2-back twins receivers. The other side is a pro I twins is a 2 receivers to one side, tight end to the other side, with 2 backs in the backfield, which I formation or split back, doesn't matter. So nub tight end is what we would call it, no receivers removed. There's no receivers split out. Condensed formations are like your tight end wing. So we do have a number. We have a receiver maybe outside of the tight end. It can be bunch. It can be tight end wing. You could do it to both sides, but any sort of condensed formation, even something like probably outside of the realm of this podcast, nasty splits, we would consider a condensed formation. So you may have a wing and then a nasty split tight end. And a nasty split means about a 5-yard split from the tackle, which, the purpose of all of these is to kind of mess with your alignment rules. But especially, the nasty split is designed to make you decide, do I want to be inside or outside? Do I want to be over top of that guy or outside of that guy? Or how do I want to defend this situation? Because he's in a position where he can potentially down block and set the edge, but he's also in a position where, he's outside. So, and there's a million ways that you can do them. You can do stacked formations. You can do a bunch of different stuff, but that's the basics.
Yeah, I put on my Twitter maybe a week or 2 ago just a nice condensed, just stay in twins, both sides. So like a doubles formation, just and it was like a Steve Sarkisian version of mesh, just kind of a spot route version of mesh. And it seemed like every DC in the joint was like, "Yep, we're gonna blitz the crap out of a corner here." And so I had never seen that many people be so on board with just blitzing into a condensed formation, not knowing what those, obviously they're just little circles on the screen, but um, I guess really I hadn't thought about defending that either because they're kind of stacked, but they're also really tight. It's like there's so many options there for the offense. You want it to be really simple for the defense as well, and we'll get into that later with options we do have. But it does bring up a challenge if you haven't seen those before, you've not practiced them. Just like the tight end wing, right? What I tell a guy, hey, you're going to go be in a 9 tech on a tight end, and he's like, I still have another guy out here. Where am I going? I remember last year's DC that would kind of mess with us with our slants and stuff. So
lots of good examples. A lot of ways that people play the 3-4, and that's what we do these for. And I think we had Kenny on for an episode about scripting. Yes. I know that we talked about the offensive play caller system in the interview I did with Kenny, and we both use scripts the same way, which is to feel out how you're going to align the formation. So somewhere early on, and for Kenny it's more of a normal formation, but somewhere early on you're going to see a tight end wing, you're going to see a bunch, you're going to see something that we think we want to know what you're going to do with it.
Yeah.
And the guy saying we're going to blitz the crap out of it, like, we've thought of that. There's an answer. Right. If your answer is blitz the crap out of it, like, that's not an answer. Just FYI.
Yeah. Well, real quick while we're here, I just want to mention athletic speed and movement. Joe and I have been working pretty hard at getting the emails out and the marketing out for athleticspeedmovement.com. And basically what that is, we've taken, Del Basquette, just truly a speed. I mean, he was at one point known as the Godfather of speed because he's been doing it that long.
He doesn't like that name anymore, though. So
he doesn't like it. He doesn't like Speed Guru. I don't think he likes Genius. He's not big on names, but you got to call him something. He's really good at speed.
I mean, he's the best.
So he's been at about 46 years or so now. He's been working or been running this program, Speed and Movement. He's operated at every level. So, this is a guy that took a rookie running back in the NFL, made him all-pro his first 2 years. He's helped put 6 guys into the Hall of Fame in the NFL, 25 plus all-pro players. He said the other day that 400,000 players is what he's helped train. So he's not at a lack for what he calls lab rats. He's had the chance to take this program and test all of its limits, test all of its boundaries, and still this first year program that we have right now at athleticspeedmovement.com, he still thinks it's the best thing on the market, and we do too. Joe's been using it for several years. I've got to talk to people all over the place. Ron Roberts, who's now back at or down at Florida with the Gators. Mm-hmm. I got to talk about it his time as a head coach, and he used the Athletic Speed Movement program. So jump over to athleticspeedmovement.com. You can grab it there. It's a 12-week program. You can get started now and make it before season. There is an in-season version or a variation that you can run. It's never too late to get started. And honestly, you can just run the base, the core program in season. It's not.
Yeah, and even in our last Q&A, we do monthly Q&As with Dale. In our last Q&A, Dale shared how to do it in 8 weeks if you have to.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you're listening to this a little later and it's already summer, gotcha.
Yep. Get you taken care of. So jump over to athleticspeedmovement.com. You can sign up for that today. Question 2. Why do these types of formations give defenses so many problems?
I think one is that it's not as clearly defined. Well, one is you add an extra blocker into the formation. So many offensive schemes, and this is why I like tight ends, for one, but so many offensive schemes take that corner, stick him out there on a receiver, and the receiver stalk blocks the corner, and we play 9v9, right? And that's how we practice our run game for the most part. You guys go down and do one-on-ones. We'll be down here doing football. And, one-on-ones are great for teams that play cover 3 all day and So they're just down there running receiver routes against a guy who doesn't really know how to play man. But you bring in an extra blocker, and especially if that guy's a capable blocker and your corner is really not a run game guy, you've now got a numbers advantage to at least one side. And especially like it when you do it, I love the tight end wing to one side and the twins formation to the other side, because it's like, okay, I got this over here and I got this over here, and what are you going to do with them? It makes you do something that's not normal. And I think what happens is defensively, we have trouble now defining a couple of things. We have trouble defining where the alley is, where the force needs to be set, where the when it becomes a crack replace situation, right? When does the corner now get involved? When does the corner not get involved? Because there's so many, take it just as a nub formations are funny because corners will, especially young corners, will stand out there. We've all seen this, right? He stands out there covering the top of the numbers.
Right.
And there's nobody near him because coaches, are working against spread all day or whatever their thought process is. They never taught this kid what to do against a nub formation. And the kid just stands out there covering dead grass. So now I'm playing 11 on 10. So with younger guys, you should always throw in a nub formation. Youth coaches, middle school coaches, like assuming that you have any relevance of a tight end in your offense and your feeder program to somewhere, you should have a tight end in your offense somewhere. Run a nub formation and just see if you can play see how long you can play 10 on 11. Because probably, and I mean, even in high school, especially early in the season, you can get that too. Hopefully we get in a scrimmage, but that's one. Clearly defining where the alley is. So take a tight end wing formation. What we have to understand is the alley is now between the tight end and the wing. We have this discussion with double wing. Double wing is the ultimate, condensed formation. I know we want to talk about two tight ends at another time. Double wing is an entirely different animal of a two tight end. But when we talk about double wing, by the way, is two tight ends, two wings. It's not two wings and then two guys split out. That's flex bone. Just to be clear. And I know that's all terminology, but the double wing offense has kicked enough tail that they get the right to double wing, right? When somebody else beats people up like that, they can, when somebody else wins hundreds and hundreds of games and just runs people over, they can name their offense and tell you it's not something to. I'm not protecting the double wing guys. I'm protecting myself from the double wing guys. When we see double wing, we talk about the difficulty in double wing, two tights, two wings, is it has 10 gaps. And we have to define that the alley is the space between the tight end and the wing. And in a base defense, umbrella run fits, the alley is defended by the free safety. So in theory, in a base, let's say 4-2-5, in a base 4-2-5 cover 3, in theory, we're perfectly fine schematically against double wing because the free safety is going to run down the alley. But then there's a bunch of misdirection. If your free safety is not a total, if your free safety is not a D1 kid flying down the alley at 1,000,000 miles an hour, he's not going to get to the alley fast enough. Any misdirection is going to slow him down, of which there's just a massive humanity back there that can slow him down. So then we use different fronts. We take the free safety out, add a linebacker so that the linebackers can scrape the way that we do in a 4-3 and become the alley player. And so that's defining where the alley is in a condensed formation, defining where the force is. Easy against a nub. again, with a nub, we usually just, everybody assuming that you have some sort of run fits concept, you put your force guy outside of the nub. Hopefully your corner is somewhere more over top of the nub. Or with the nub, especially if you're running man coverage, you flip check and send the corner over with the other receiver, and then you're back to a essentially 9-on-9 game with, two corners, playing on the other side. So I don't think nub causes a lot of problem in the front in the run game. Nub causes more of a problem. Just a straight nub formation causes more of a problem in the coverage in the back end, because a lot of times you just lose that corner. He doesn't know how to handle it. He doesn't need to be there. Honestly, if you're in man, he doesn't need to be there. In cover 3, he has to stay there, but you can bump the free safety and all this sort of stuff. And then defining the alley and figuring out the alignment there, how you're going to align your defensive line, because it creates a longer edge. So where I would normally, and again, I don't think nub causes a problem. But if it's a tight end wing, just keep coming back to, or if you invert that, where you put the guy who's in the wing position a little bit wider up, and the back off the inside guy, creates it really interesting, because that up guy, and same thing with the bunch formation, that up guy is in a position to down block on your defensive end. If you're a 30 front, that guy, your four-tech is really inside. So what do I do with the Sam backer? What do I do if I'm in a 3-3? Do I rotate and pull somebody out of my stack and basically get into a 3-4 and walk one of my stack guys up? Do I, who do I put down over top of the nub or top of the bunch? Having that figured out because of the extended edge, so that you don't just get down blocked, especially when it's to one side and it essentially becomes a unbalanced formation, really, for you. I mean, it can very quickly become an unbalanced formation. How do you want to defend that? And then I see a lot of coaches with the tight end wing. And their answer is to immediately get the corner involved. Now you're getting killed on play action.
Yep.
Because they see an extra gap instead of seeing an alley. It's not an extra gap; it's the alley. So if the corner is now responsible for something in there, that's going to be a problem. You now have no stay in coverage player. So
yep. So
a lot of considerations with it, and there's probably more that I'm missing. When the corner does get involved is the other one, because that is, whether it's a nub, whether it's a wing, whether it's whatever it is no longer a 9-on-9 game where that guy is split out and stalk blocked in the corner, and if he does anything, it's great, and if he doesn't, it's fine. They add an extra blocker. When that guy comes down to engage, do I crack replace? Am I getting down there and helping? Because that's a crack replace. Crack replace is when the number one receiver engages in a block. And if the corner sits back there playing stay in coverage while that guy's blocking, I'm outnumbered. And so that's, that wing could come down and essentially crack the free safety, and they could kick out my strong safety, and I'm out of numbers. So that's, I think, how to handle the extended edge, or potentially treat it as an unbalanced, where to define the alley, when to define crack replace situation, or the hard things.
Yeah, I see alignment issues a lot of time, basically what you said, and it's not even as much. The force player thinks that they can just leave because, well, there's not a guy out there. I have no one to apex, right? So that's what I've seen as defensive. That what was supposed to be an outside overhang backs up to go play safety, and the corner has to play force, which is kind of what you were talking about, right?
Well, that's the other thing they'll do, is they'll take the strong safety on the tight end side, and they'll walk him down in a 9 tech to fill up that space
Right.
between the tight end and the wing. Well, who's the force now?
Yes.
The corner. Well, who's staying coverage?
Also the
Nobody.
corner. Right. And so,
So
I
either
see that
you've got a
alignment
deep
being
half play or
incorrect.
no flat or whatever.
I've seen a lot. I've seen some teams that want to roll it back away from that nub for some reason, or that we're talking more of a tight end wing now, but these condensed sets. Um, and I don't really know why. That's kind of what I've seen people start rolling the other way. It's the Kenny Simpson tight end wing twins thing going on, and that seems to be their answer. Like it's almost like they forget that tight end is still one. He can go catch a pass
Right.
right now, and two, you have this huge surface. So
Well, you see a
yeah,
lot of teams that are probably one of the biggest things that'll get you is the formation has become very fashionable. Knowing how to use it is not.
right,
So you'll line up to that formation one week against a team who doesn't know what to look for, who doesn't know how to attack you. And maybe you blitz the piss out of it. Maybe you bring the strong safety down and stick him in a 9 tech. Maybe you make the corner the force. Maybe you do any of those things and it works fine. Then you have to play Kenny or somebody who's taken the time to understand the formation and study it. And those things, or God forbid, they got your film doing that. They got the film of that happening, and they know exactly what you're going to do, and they can't wait. So you get that too. You get that in everything. You get teams that line up in a spread, and this is the dumbest. This is the Facebook troll comment of when I run Facebook ads for the 425 defense. I haven't in a while, but when I do, and guys say, "Oh, that can't stop insert offense here." What's your reasoning? Played against it once 3 years ago.
right.
Okay. That there you go. So when you see a good one, you're going to get gashed or you're going to get destroyed. Nothing's going to work. And I don't know what your answer is going to be then. It'll be something else, I'm sure. Or, maybe you'll come sign up. I don't know. So yeah, that can be a problem too. It's just not one of the worst things that can happen to us is playing against a bad team or a poorly coached team, even an athletic team that's poorly coached, or even just poorly coached in one area, and thinking we found a solution.
Yeah. So since we've talked a few options here that generally don't work, last question is just how can we defend these formations and really stay true to our identity? And I'm gonna let you run wild at the end here, so I'm just gonna give the kind of the thing that I've always installed a condensed edge check, and I don't so much like your corner over idea, just because trying to get my um, cornerback is going to be the issue. If they want to go tempo, their wide receiver knows to come back. My corner may or may not, and so I hate crossing kids over, and then I got to worry about them trying to come back. And what if they motion over and then motion back? And now he's just running around like a crazy man. So what I'll do is invert my safety and corner. So I'll put the corner up high, just let him know you are like you've always been, essentially a cover three, stay deep corner. And now that safety can sit outside and be the force player, right? So he's not doing anything new. We'll also, and I may use the term incorrectly even from your defense, but we'll banjo that. And so, if we get tight end wing, we're not so worried about who my guy is. It's more if this is a pass play, my force can just stay flat. My corner can stay over the top. Just kind of let them come to us situation. Now, is that going to defeat everything? Absolutely not. But, in a formation we've not seen a lot of, those are things that have worked for me. And it luckily alleviates a lot of what you just said, right? Is I don't have to get a corner involved in the run game. He never has to quit doing his job, which is, I don't even really like running cover two, base cover two, because I don't want corners tackling. I'm okay with a, read two because it's quarters and I've still got a force down there. But, yes, that's always been my thing, man. I've just flipped those guys, even if it's just a single tight end down there. I still don't want that corner sitting out there doing nothing to a nub. And so I'll let him go back. And then we can, if we need to, cheat a safety over a little bit or whatever, because I still have force to take care of things like counter or power or whatever back to that nub side, which I had to try to fight a lot last year. So it's a pretty good play.
I've lost that battle. Yeah, our base check. So again, it's the best defense if you have the coaches and the players and all of that. The 4-3 eliminates a lot of these issues. So when I see it, I want to look at, okay, what can I take from the 4-3 and use and be in a good situation? Our base check to the nub in the 4-3 with pattern match quarters is to, well, we just call it invert, or swap. We've used different words, swap or invert, which is exactly what you said, swapping the strong safety, putting him out where he can play his force, and we're still in technically a quarters. We're still basically reading off a number two's release and all that sort of stuff, but we've just swapped the responsibilities. Or we'll play it as a cover two kind of thing, bring the safety, we'll invert the safety and bring him all the way down. It does more against a nub than a tight end wing, but against a nub, go ahead and bring him down to 5 yards, 5x5. Put the corner over top 7x3. I still want the corner outside leverage because I don't want to give up that easy corner route throw. There's traffic inside, and that puts us in a good situation. And with the 9 tech, so we could do that to the nub with the 9 tech defensive end. Go tight end wing. You have the 9 tech defensive end who's in that C gap. Remember that in the 4-3 umbrella run fits, you don't have a single high safety. The linebackers are really responsible. The outside linebackers are really responsible for the alley on outside run, responsible for getting a good read and getting, for example, if you run strong side power, we should squeeze that down with the 9 tech. Buck sweep is another one, because we're getting the pulls, right? The linebackers are scraping. I should be getting essentially a gap exchange with the Sam linebacker and the defensive end coming down on the down block by the tight end. Fine, the wing's going to down block him. Fine. Okay, whatever. That's all in the design. And then we come down and scrape tight to that from a spill position from the Sam, and the strong safety sitting outside. You're in a good position. Other thing that you can do in the 4-3, which is great, is the underfront. A lot of people try to do the underfront out of a 4-2, and it's not as good. Because we're talking about a 7-man front versus, we call it an 8-man front, but really you're working with 6 under the umbrella versus 7. And so what we're doing now is essentially sticking that guy in the alley. So we're walking down the Sam backer, and we're playing a 5 and a 9. So now we've got a C gap and a D gap defender, and we've got our strong safety outside playing force. So we've got C gap, D gap, force defended. All well and good if you're a 4-3 underfront, because you've got those linebackers. If you're not, it's tougher. And the other problem is you're going to have to use what we call a clue check, which is essentially a banjo if you're playing a twins formation like that. You're essentially in a man or a banjo on number 1 and number 2 to the twins side. So you have to be comfortable with that. So like the look is great when we do that. If we do it the other way, we at least have the Will backer in the vicinity. So if we do it in the normal 4-3 over front, the Will backer can play a loose 50 where he kind of looks like an outside backer. He technically is an outside backer, but he kind of looks like he's not, an inside linebacker. And, he clouds at least that trip side. But if we do it in the underfront, we have to rotate that Will backer over to be a B gap defender. And playing the overfront, if you're not a true 4-3, your Mike backer doesn't know how to be a 2 gap defender, which means you're probably going to screw it up and make the Will backer the weak side B gap defender, which means you're probably going to have a nobody in the alley. That's a problem.
Right.
And because you had to split those guys out and play some sort of a man coverage, you're probably going to have nobody to force. That's a problem. And the problem with the clue check, by the way, is you do need to make a Bronco. check with that will backer. So your alley defender is going to be the defensive end, and that's not desirable. So you start looking at all sorts of, now the Mike backer has to hammer it. Everything has a weakness. See, all these things that you think you have the answer for. I'm sitting here telling you, I love this defense against it. Like, I love everything about it. And I'm like, but that's not going to be good. That's not going to be good. There's a weakness here. There's a weakness here. They all have a weakness. There's no answer. There's no perfect answer. That's what everybody's looking for. If it existed, can he be out of business? Right? We would have solved it. All right. Next. Right? We could have put, if there's an answer, we could have put Tony Franklin out of business. If I had an answer for Tony Franklin's system, he'd be out of business. I guess he's still in business. I don't know. You don't hear, he is. We would have put all this stuff out immediately. Start with that. And again, you go to, how do I adapt? What am I willing to give up? What do they do really well? And you go to a base 4-2. Well, if I go to a base 4-2, I don't need to invert anybody, right? The corner's over there. And the important thing with the corner is, you're right. If it's somebody who's going to go tempo, if it's somebody who's going to motion, I'm going to have to run back with that. So calling cover one. If I call cover one, then I make a flip check, which is a base check for a nub tight end. It's not a check for the tight end wing, but it is a base check for the nub tight end. If I make a flip check, if a team is going to start to make my corner run all over the place, I don't want guys running with motion. So I'm immediately going to say no flip. And I'll just tag it no flip. We won't flip it. And we're perfectly fine. We just run cover one with no flip. We run cover one normal. And it's no problem. But ideally, if you'll let me, I'll flip my corner and we'll play 9-on-9. I'll play 1-on-1 or 2-on-2 out there, and I'll play 9-on-9 inside, especially if you're more of a run team. And most of those teams are. Right. We see teams that are good play action out of it, but not a lot of, if you were a great drop back passing team, you wouldn't have a tight end than a nub, right? Or you wouldn't have a tight end than a wing. You'd split those guys out and you'd be running air raid. Not always. It's not always true, but a lot of teams that is true. And you can tell, because when a lot of those teams get into third and long, what do they go to? They go to 2x2, true 2x2, doubles formation type stuff. So in the 4-2 cover 3, this is an easiest way to defend it. I can just make my free safety more. My strong safety is in position to force. He's 5x5 outside of the wing, so he's fine. I've got force. I've got a 6 tech. If I have to play a 6I because I don't have a true 6 tech strong end, it's tough. If I've got a strong end that can play a 6 tech head up on the tight end and beat the snot out of him, I have a pretty good advantage right now. Because if that wing has to come down and help, hopefully I can teach my corner, come up and help.
Yeah.
It's not a crack replace on the corner, so he can, on the safety, so he can insert inside. But I can slide the free safety over and play him a little bit tighter so that he's really conscious of that alley, because that is the alley between the tight end and the wing. If I stick somebody else in there, my free safety has nowhere to fit. And so I've canceled him from the run fits. It's the same concept. The reason I don't like forcing with defensive ends. I'm okay forcing with defensive ends in a cover 0 in our Tiger Cat because they're running off with the man, right? They're gone. But if I have a strong safety sitting out there and I tell the defensive end that he's a box end, what's my strong safety sitting out there for? I basically said, if my end does his job, my safety has no purpose. So if I stick somebody in C gap and I stick somebody in D gap and I'm running a 1 high front with an alley defender, there's no alley. So I've canceled him from the run fit to that side. So I might as well just walk him down on the other side because there's nowhere for him to fit. Right. Now, if I can just totally outnumber you there and play man, that's fine. But if I play my base with a 6 tech, with a strong safety outside, with a corner over top stay in coverage, and the free safety on the run read comes down and he plays the alley. Just nobody does this, but if you're, I mean, some people I've seen it, but let's just from a really basic standpoint, if your tight end tries to hook my defensive end and your wing back kicks out my strong safety and you just try to run some sort of outside zone play type of thing, the free safety should be the one coming down and making the tackle. Now I could go to a whole bunch of other stuff like my Mike linebacker should also be scraping, blah, 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 blah. We should get numbers to the game. But that's the picture in the 4-2. In the 3-3, I need to slant to the tight end, or I need to blitz the Sam backer to the tight end. And that's where you start to look at, should I just rotate guys down? Because if I'm in the 3-4, I will slant away from the tight end, but I will have my Sam backer up playing 6 tech. So I could adjust my 3-3 because 3-3 and 3-4 are not wildly different in their structure. They're different in your thought process with them. And so in the 3-3, in the 3-4, I want the Sam backer sitting down. Where I can really screw up a 3-4 is the guys who run the 3-4 with 2 gap linebackers, but they don't understand their 2 gap linebackers, and they keep both outside linebackers outside because now they've got a 4 tech and an outside. That's an edge. So with us, the Sam, assuming that we're running something with the Sam up, we can do something with the Will up too, but it's going to be game plan. I would probably want to automatic this and get my Sam up on it, squeezing down any tight end down blocks and that sort of stuff. With that, you're in good shape. The 3-3, you just either slant to it or make an adjustment to get out over top of it. And I feel the same way. I love my favorite, if you have a bunch formation, and this would go for your nub, or this would go for your tight end wing, but the tight end's outside and the wing is inside type of thing. Same with bunch formation. You go 3-4 and you walk your Sam backer straight up on the face of the guy that's on the line. And that gives you a very effective look. And then you can also slant to it. Or slant away. If you slant to it, you're open to counters backside, but you're not completely unsound. If you slant away from it, you're very sound, but not as strong. And again, it's one of those risk reward. If you know they always want to run that way, you can take a little more risk.
Yeah, that's my question. You know, when I see bunch formation, I think our heavy was out of like a bunch, but we did it with like tackles and tight ends and stuff all over the place. But do you count that inside person in the bunch? So in this tight bunch, you've got a tight end with basically 2 wing backs behind him, one on each butt cheek, right?
One on each side. Yep.
So does that make yet another gap because of the swab possibility?
I've never seen somebody be able to use that as a gap. It just, I don't know that you could use that as a gap. I mean, we could be really technical, but I have never seen a team effectively use that as a gap, because when you start putting 2 guys off the ball, you know, the NFL loves the 3 tight end formations, but they have the inside guy with his hand down and 2 more big guys. What the NFL is great at is using alignments. And so what the NFL will do is they can create another gap, because, you know, if you watch NFL receivers are so good at lining up just off the ball.
Right.
I mean, just off. You don't ever see an NFL receiver lined up 3 yards in the backfield unless it's for a very specific purpose. They are just off the ball. Well, what they do with those tight ends is when they go with a heavy formation, with a 3 tight end formation to one side, is they will get the offensive line to get all the ball, right, to be as close to the ball as they can. They will, and the tight end is even with them, and then the wings have the just touch of their nose, like right behind the center's butt, just so they're off the ball. That can create an extra gap, and that's an unbalanced, and that you have to treat. High school, youth, I've never seen it done. I've never seen it done. It's not to say it can't be done.
Just basically respect the outside zone. They can get there and reach you, but we're not worried about fitting another dude out
Right.
there.
I think
Okay.
what you want to do in those situations, and again, if you slanted if you went into a 5 front, um, where I bring my so this is where being, and again, going back to the 4-3, you'd be perfectly fine. You would play a 3 and a 5 backside. You would play a 1, a 5. You would play the under front. You would play a 1, a 5, and then you would put your Sam backer in the face of the walked up guy. So now, and he can play outside leverage, and that's okay because now we basically, we've got the we've got it covered. Um, as opposed to if I was in a 3-4, I have to slant. If I was in a 3-4 and I walked and I think you would need to play a man coverage there of some sort. I'm trying to think how you would
So I
inside
think what we did last year is I just slanted to it. So if I had a single tight end, we would slant away so that my sandbacker could
Sure.
fit inside. If I had anything additional, another wing or another person in there, we would always have to slant away. I'm sorry, slant to it so that guy could fit outside. For the main reasons because of power coming to that. I needed someone to fit the down block, and the only next guy available is my overhang, who I just told to be the force, and now I've got him running to wrong arm, and so you can see where that gets out of control pretty
Mhm.
quick. I know what you said earlier about being susceptible to counter backside. You truly are, but if you play head up, if you play a 4 tech and you get a down block, when that strike zone goes inside, same thing you say in every other thing, right? Like block away is play away, so they're running heel
Sure.
line.
Well,
And
if you're playing
so
a 2 gap technique, you could squeeze that. But if you're slanting inside, is where I'm
oh yeah,
seeing him basically
yeah,
as a 3 tech
yeah,
after the snap, and that if a good tackle sees a slant inside and just takes him with him, he just turns it into a down. But we would be trying to release inside for counter game.
yeah,
Some guys would try to base him with the tackle, but I think that's a slanting guy. That's kind of a risk.
yeah.
Um, I wouldn't do that because it doesn't fit our scheme. But he would go down. I would hopefully I would have the Mike linebacker scraping, but what I worry about is okay, you know, who's forcing and who's am I creating? Like I said, I'm not horribly weak to it,
Yeah.
but I don't love it.
One wrong read, or if they're adding motion ahead of time
Right.
anyway, then now, yeah, you're
I
delayed
yeah,
for sure.
I can do it, but from a number standpoint and all, um, it's just again, all of this comes down to we've between you and I, we've probably talked about 50 different ways to handle these things, right? And that's why we have to game plan.
Yes.
Like that's why we can't just I can't hand you okay, you run a 4-2-5 defense, you're playing a wing T. Here. Like I have to know what I need to take away. I don't want to run anything that is I don't want to run anything that is unsound. And I don't think anything that we've talked about other than some of the things that we said don't do. I don't think
Right.
anything we've talked about is unsound in that, and what we mean by unsound is draw up this play against this defense. It's not ideal, but we could, in theory, if he does this and he does this, we should be able to stop it. But it's not ideal. It's cover 3 against 4 verts, right? If I run base cover 3 against 4 verts and I use what Kirby Smart said of the corner's attention is 2/3 in the free safety splits the 2 inside receivers. The corner's attention is 2/3 on the inside receiver, 1/3 on the outside receiver because it's a longer throw and he has sideline help. Okay. On a chalkboard, if we do it all perfect, we have 4 verts defended in cover 3. Same thing if I tell the will backer to go out, or, we get 2 by 2 and we're in cover 3. I want the will backer to walk out and weak safety or whatever to walk out and get in the face of the number 2 weak so that he doesn't get a clean release, and whether I funnel him or whatever, technically I have an answer on paper. Now, would I rather be in quarters? Would I rather be in cover 4? Would I rather be in cover 1 than cover 3 against 2x2 4 verts? Yes, but there's an answer in our cover 3 for 4 verts.
Yep.
That's what we're talking about here is all of your initial adjustments. Now, I've had a team line up in a power eye and kick the absolute pee out of us. And at a point, corner comes out and I stick a safety in there and screw the pass. Like, at least it'll be over quicker.
Give me some clock back, damn it.
If it's double wing. If you can't stop the double, our double wing uses 9 defenders defending the run and 2 guys staying in coverage because every double wing is sitting there waiting for the corner to come up and make the tackle. Well, if they're getting 18 yards a pop, you might as well let the corner make a tackle because it'll be over quicker. It'll be easier. But if you start out that way, you're getting killed.
Yeah.
Especially when you find out that you can't stop it with the corner getting up there either. Right. Now you're giving up the pass and the run. So that's what we look to do is what are they really good at? Are they really good at we see teams running jet sweep. We see teams running trap. We see teams running buck sweep. We see teams running, play action. We see teams. What are they really good at? If they're, I twins and they're really good at running ISO, don't do anything. Because, do something to defend the ISO, but don't do anything. Don't worry about the nub. Who cares? Like, what are they hurting you on the nub? Nothing. Forget it. Match numbers. Cover up, play the inside half of all the gaps.
Sweet. Well, I know we could sit here and talk about it all night and every version of a condensed formation, but like Joe's saying, there's not a magic pill that solves condensed formations. You're going to have to game plan. You're going to have to see what fits your system. What do your kids already know, right? It's like you're just going to have to make what you already know solve the problem.
Yeah, and we didn't even talk about that.
And hope that one of those 3 solves the problem. And once they solve it, the second way stops them again. Joe you say that all the time. Make them rip that play out of the playbook. And then what do they go to next? So be prepared for that. Before we get out of here, man, we'll pay the bills one more time. Join.joedanielfootball.com or you can go to joedanielfootball.com/rules. Don't
go to join.joedanielfootball.com. It'll be gone soon.
It's out of here.
It'll still redirect to the right place, but it's not going to be there on longer.
There you go.
Get tired of that.
joedanielfootball.com/rules. Jump in, shoot us your email. I'll tell you what, number one, the email traffic you're going to get back on that thing is wonderful. Joe's like the best email writer. He got me off guard and caught me with a Darth Vader reference once. That was really nice. So you're going to get some really neat emails anyways. But get that sheet, that PDF. It's got the 40 tips and tricks. Like Joe said, one of them is going to help you win a game this season. So you might as well jump in and get it now while it's free. While you're there, you can check out never mind. Whatever. It's rules. Check out the rules.
joedanielfootball.com/rules.
Yep. Sales opening and closing. We are mid-April.
We'll be opening up Football Coaching 101 very soon, which is a 3-level coaching education. Football Coaching 101 being the things you need to know before that every coach should know before you ever step on the field, but most coaches don't for several years, if ever. Level 2 is Football Coaching Mastery. That was the reason behind creating the course, and that was because when I was a head coach, those were the things that I wanted to make sure that my assistant coaches knew at the end of their first year. I had a couple of new coaches, and I wanted to make sure they knew it at the end of the first year. But I got so caught up in being a head coach and doing all first-year head coaching things and everything that was going on in my personal life that I felt like I let those guys down, and they didn't get that. So I created a course so that would never happen again, and hopefully never happen again for anybody. And then level 3 is Coordinator Masterclass, which is all about play calling. Getting the Football Coaching Mastery is all about play design, really, and which is really good stuff. And Coordinator Masterclass is all about being a coordinator, choosing the play calls, creating the call sheets, managing game day. So those 3 levels, it is one of the things I'm most proud of that I've put together ever at JDFB. It is our top seller by far. over the last 3 or 4 years. That'll be opening up here at the end of April, probably at a web URL, joedanielfootball.com/FBC101, I would guess. I'm actually almost positive that's going to be it.
Love a man that knows his own system. Social media, you can catch me on X or Twitter, whatever you call it, at Coach Chambo OK. You can email me at chamberlainfootballconsulting@gmail.com. Hit me up with all your football questions. Have my own quick cut now, so we can get together and you can send me your film and I can watch it and never bug anybody else. It's great. I just need your download link if you're a Huddle guy, and things will be good. Joe, where can we find you at, sir?
You can find me on X, Twitter at FootballInfo, FOOTBALLINFO. You can find me on Instagram at JoeDanielFootball, and at JoeDanielFootball.com.
Perfect. Podcast is at the FBCP. If this is your first time listening to the Football Coaching Podcast, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. You can find us on your favorite podcatcher, specifically Spotify and Apple Podcasts. If you're on one of those, please leave us a review. If it's not a good one, let us know why so we can try to solve that issue first. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Football Coaching Podcast. And remember, coach simple, play fast, win.